Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Winslow, and that is Carlos, and this is the Creative Hole. What's up?
What's
What's
up,
up? What's up? What's
everybody?
up? So, once again, we are going over the book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. So, today we're going to be discussing the key ID number 7, which is take a day off every week to rest and worship.
Yay.
That's right. So, a little bit of a recap from last week, which was key ID number 6, which is to make sure to create time for silence and solitude every day. Also, we spoke about the negative effects that neglecting times of silence and solitude can have on you. We also spoke about the benefits of practicing silence and solitude in your daily life.
Solid solitude.
I like that. Solid
Solid
solitude.
solitude.
So before we go any further, I just want to ask a quick question, and I don't know if you heard anything about this because it deals with a sports star named Aaron Rodgers and his darkness retreat. Did you hear anything about that? So pretty much what he did is, I think it's like a 5-day retreat that he goes into some cave of some sort, and they block out like all light.
That's
And
tight.
so the reason why they do, or I'm guessing the reason why they do that is to pretty much block out everything, so all you're left alone is with your thoughts. And so within this 5 days, like all you're doing is sitting there with your thoughts and thinking about like if I should do this, if I should do that. His big thing was about retiring or still playing football. He said 90% when he first walked in, 90% was that he was going to retire, 10% was that he was going to play again. But he said once he got out of it, his mindset changed to pretty much like 90% that he was going to play, 10% that he was going to retire. So I
I
can only
like that.
imagine,
That's pretty
I can,
cool.
I can only imagine like what that would feel like for literally everything, I guess, to eat, to do everything, to use the restroom, everything was in darkness. Now, do you think you'd be able to handle that?
To me, that sounds like
5 days,
going to the shoe. Except I don't.
5 days of pure darkness, alone with your thoughts. How long do you think you could last?
Is this like without food?
No, they would give him food. It would be
Oh,
almost
as long
like,
as I
I don't
got
know if
food,
they would
I'd be
like,
all right.
if they would open something, throw some food in there, and then close it, and then you're in darkness again.
It'd be. I think I'd have some challenges for sure, but I think I could do it. I don't
I
know
don't
if
know
I
if
would
I could.
like it.
I don't know if I could do it,
I
but I,
definitely want to pilot test it with 6 hours first.
yeah, I know. But either or, I mean, if that was his get down, like he seemed like after like the third or fourth day, like he was kind of like done with it,
Mhm.
but he's stuck with it, and I'm like, good job for you, Aaron Rodgers.
I'd like to hear the story behind that. Like what made him come to that idea and when was the first time he did it and what was that experience
He's
like?
he's he's kind of a hippie, so he does like a lot of hippie-ish things.
Oh, so he's like smoking weed in there and stuff?
No,
Oh.
maybe ayahuasca, maybe not
Oh.
that, but
Oh.
he has done that.
You mean
But the whole
hippie.
but the whole thing of being locked and lost in your thoughts for 5 full days, like what that would do to you, like your senses might heighten
Yeah.
them in certain areas. That'll probably help you to, I guess, come to some conclusions or to kind of lay out plans, which I
Yeah.
thought was kind of interesting. But you know what?
Yeah, that's pretty cool though.
It's
Nice little intro there. I like that.
it's kind of weird. It's kind of cool. Kind of weird.
You've
Whatever.
been working behind the scenes, Winslow.
That's what I do. But now let's get into this week's topic. Key ID number 7: take a day off every week to rest and worship. So, what John Mark Comer, in the very beginning, what he explains is just a few decades ago, Americans would wake up on a Sunday to a very quiet world. All the shops were closed as businesses were also closed. There was nothing to do. Do you remember those times?
I don't remember those times, but when I lived in Kentucky, they had they were considered dry counties. Do you know what a dry county is?
No rain.
No,
Oh,
that's Blind Melon. A dry
oh,
county
my bad.
is when they don't sell alcohol on Sundays.
Okay.
And it was due to the religious background of the community. And so they had such a strong religious stance or views that they didn't even sell alcohol on Sundays. So they said, no sipping 40s on the Lord's Day.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But I do kind of remember like places being closed like on Sundays, and luckily there wasn't like any. For the most part, technology. We might have had our ColecoVisions, Nintendo 64s, stuff like that. But as in going somewhere to buy something, you couldn't do it.
Really? Huh.
Everywhere was closed.
Dang, I don't remember that at all. That must have been in those couple of years that you have on me
Yeah, maybe.
when you're a
So,
kid.
so you might think there was nothing to do, but actually, it wasn't just nothing. You could spend time with your family and friends, visit a local park, or go to church. Have a snooze on the couch, cook a meal,
I like that.
but cooking a meal, going to church, or both.
All the above,
Do
especially
you
the
cook?
snooze on the couch.
Oh yeah,
No, my wife does a great job cooking.
I'm sure she does.
See, I didn't get this big because she don't cook, my boy.
But having a day of of rest every week is a
Why are you
golden
laughing?
rule for many major religions. Even God, powerful as he is, took a day off after 6 days of busily creating our world.
Indubitably.
There you go with that word again that
I
I
don't
can
know.
not really say. Definitely cannot. I definitely cannot spell it. Um, but I do believe having a day of rest can definitely help the recharging. So, for instance, an example. Um, so at the place that I work with, we call them members. Yesterday, she was kind of having just a day, and she's also a fellow believer. Um, so she went to her job. She's like a in-home support worker, IHSS. So she went to her job, even though she didn't want to go because like mentally she just was like all over the place. Like just was like, man, I just need some time. I just need a break. So she knocks on the door. She knocks on the door again. Knocks on the door again. 15 minutes later, they don't answer. So then she leaves. So she said it's almost like a blessing in disguise because like she needed that time of rest, even though it wasn't on a Sunday. It was on a Monday. But she said after her being able to like almost simmer down a little bit and then recharge, she said today when she went to work, she said it was a great day. She was like fully charged, fully everything, and I think that's where like a day of rest comes into play,
Yeah.
where you just kind of like slow everything down and then get back to it, balance yourself out, and the next day go at it. And that's what she did, and it seemed to work. So, however, as society has become more secular and oriented towards commercial interest, this time of rest has been eroded. So, been going down the dumps. And I would say this one probably gets me a little bit right here. But now you can go shopping anytime of the day or night. The shops on the internet can be accessed with the click of a button.
Dopamines all day and dopamine all night.
And at least when it was like physical mom and well, not necessarily mom and pop stores, but physical like
Brick and
brick and
mortars.
mortar, like if they were closed, like you can knock on that door as long as you want on Sunday. Nobody's gonna open, so you can't buy anything. But nowadays, well, you'll go on probably Amazon. Just
Infinitely open.
yeah, just what do I want? Let's get this. All right, send. Now you're
Yep. One click purchases
yeah.
and it'll be at your doorstep the next day.
Like that's how I feel. That's how I justify like, oh, I'm not that bad because I'm not on one click button. I have to go still through the whole process, and so it makes me feel a little bit better. I'm
How
like,
does it
well,
make
I'm
you
not.
feel about the time that you're wasting going through that process, knowing you're still purchasing all those things?
I feel like it's more of an adventure.
I used to try that with myself, going back to I feel like it's an adventure, you're dumb.
Just saying.
So I used to do that like with social media when I was like having little crack episodes. So like I'd make myself completely log out. I would take the app off, and if I wanted to get on, I would have to enter in everything. And so I would do that, and I just got like faster at doing it.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is dumb. Give me my app back.
But the idea was there. It was good. Good
Yeah.
idea. Like, hey, it's gonna take me longer. I might forget my password because I'm old. So it's gonna take me a long time. Then I'm gonna be like, whatever. But then you get find other ways, smarter ways, and then you're then you're back
Mhm.
on.
Yep. I was talking with my coworker today about how you know how like your devices have like things that can they basically don't allow you access
Oh
to
yeah.
certain things during certain blocks of time. But
Like
it's
the
like,
focus thing.
yeah, but it don't work if you are a rebellious rule breaker and you're like, forget this.
You
And
buck
you go you
you
lack
buck
discipline.
against the
I buck
authority
against of
of the app.
myself,
Yeah.
that I created.
Mm-hmm.
Just total lack of discipline for sure.
I mean, it happens. I mean, not
Yeah.
to me. Okay, it does happen to me, but whatever.
That's why I hang out with you. So to rub off on me.
Oh, so I'm the bad influence?
No, you're the good influence.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, I take the fall, man. I'm all good
Mm,
with that.
all right. So
I need the
things
Lord's
aren't,
grace.
yeah, definitely that. So things aren't much better in the world of work. While other forebears, bleh, while other forebears fought very hard for a 5-day work week, we now carry around our offices and our phone. And it's weird because my coworker, which we brought up last week, she has part of her work on her phone. And I remember asking her, I was like, why are you doing that? She's like, oh, because I could be more productive. Which okay, but at the same time I'm like, that's a little weird. Because then that almost gives you it almost gives you like the okay to take your work wherever you want. With me, when I'm at work. Now if I'm during there or if I'm at the office during office hours,
Hmm.
okay. Like that's fine. But then if I have it on my phone at any point of time when my mind starts to pivot to other things, sometimes it's work, I would probably get on there and do some work if I needed to. But I just leave it alone because I've had too many times where I bring work home and it doesn't do me any good.
Yep. And the work never ends. It'll
No.
always be there.
Yep, it'll be there in the morning. So work has leaked into every corner of our lives. No wonder that having a burnout has become the norm for many people. We have often forgot how to rest. And we were talking about rest earlier. Even with the example I told you, she needed some mental rest. She got it. The next day she came to work, which was today. She felt rejuvenated. And it's good. Always have that rest.
Hmm.
So, you might be asking yourself, how do we fix this?
I was.
Well, there you go. And I knew that. So we need to bring back the concept of Sabbath, a day to rest and worship.
So Winslow, what is Sabbath?
It's the
It's a big fancy word.
so the first thing is it is for a day of rest. The day that it would be on, I would feel would be a Sunday, but I want to say some believe that a Saturday is like a day of rest.
Yeah, you're getting political now. I'm
Well,
just
you
messing
asked
with you.
me.
I
You asked
did.
me, right?
That was supposed to be an alley oop, you know.
Oh, so I threw an alley oop to myself and then I threw it back up after telling me I did a double alley oop to nobody. So the Hebrew word for Sabbath, Shabbat, means to rest. The Bible teaches that on the Sabbath day, believers should abstain from work, engage in activities that promote rest, refreshment, and renewal. So what do you think about that? The whole promoting rest, refreshment, and renewal.
I think that's really cool. And I think that, like it said earlier, like you mentioned earlier, that even God in all his power and ability chose to rest. And so he's telling us to rest. And there's benefits, he knows about it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the heart, basically resting from your work, because, a lot of times work is connected to finances, which is connected to security or desires and pleasures. And so being able to rest is actually a spiritual discipline, right? So you can actually trust God. And the interesting thing is, there's even like a thing in the scripture where it talks about like I think the year of Jubilee, and where they would not use their fields at all, like for a year or something. And it was to show their trust in God, that he will provide, that you don't have to work to provide for yourself, that he will provide. So it was truly a discipline. And at the heart of it was trust. That
Isn't Jubilee like a 7-year?
It's 7 years, something like that.
I just researched that like I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe a
Oh,
couple
did
weeks
you?
ago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I was wondering what Jubilee was, because I think we were talking about it at church or it
Okay.
was somewhere, and I was like, okay, what is Jubilee?
I may have the details off because I haven't read about Jubilee in a while, but
But
it's
I think
along
it's
those lines.
It's like a 7-year
Break.
type of deal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the Sabbath is a concept observed in many faith communities, but there are secular practices that can be seen as equivalents to Sabbath. So what do you think that would mean? Like the equivalents to Sabbath?
Well, I
Just
think
like hanging out?
in the faith communities, it's going to have those religious components or spiritual components, intentionally. And I think it's rooted in maybe maybe the scriptures or whatever your faith community it has to say about rest or Sabbath. But the secular or non-religious practices are going to be basically similar practices in the sense of abstaining from working, finding things that rejuvenate you, self-care, things of that nature.
So do you think in this sense like work talks about like your 9 to 5, or like any work that could possibly be of monetary value?
I think it means from your daily activities that basically would, I think, constitute your chores. So, like, for example, I used to have a landlord that they were actually Seventh-day Adventist. And so for them, Sabbath is like front and center. Okay. And they would practice it on, I believe, beginning Friday evening, and it would go over
Into
to the
Saturday.
next. Yeah. And so they would prepare everything that they needed on that Friday. So you didn't have to do anything. So you had no excuse to work because you took care of everything in advance.
It's like pre-prepping for your lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Except for
Almost
rest.
too much.
True rest.
Because I've always, and that's where I kind of got the Saturday from the Seventh-day Adventist thing.
Oh yeah, they rock the Sabbath for sure.
But like, so like, what about like researching stuff for? And this is probably getting way too deep, but just a quick surface, like, let's say like doing some research for our like podcast or something.
Well, Wenzel, there is no hard doctrine for how you practice Sabbath. Your interpretation of rest may may be very different from another interpretation of rest.
I like that.
You like
Nice.
that? So I think anything constitutes work where you're not resting. So if you're mentally working, okay, because maybe you could think, oh, well, stop from all physical work. Well, what if you don't really do much physical work anyways, and you're working on computers, or like I do, I use my mouthpiece and computer. That's what I get paid to do. And there's not a lot of physical work except walking long distances. But besides that, That's probably
I'm
considered
just
more
not gonna
self.
walk.
That's more self care for me, really. I could use that walk, but I think it would be truly like for me, what that would look like is resting with my Bibles. Like for example, with my children, I tell them no video games, not
Mhm.
all day, but like before church, no video games, and I explain to them why. And I say, prepare yourselves, to go to church. And so, like, even if like they think it's boring sometimes or whatever the case may be, and they don't always think that, but there's some days that they're not always excited. They'd rather stay home and play video games. But I teach them about the importance of honoring God and what that looks like, and I talk to them about intentionally stopping what they're doing to focus on God, so I could teach them like He's worthy, and that's where like worship comes from, saying you're worthy, Lord, right? And it takes that time to acknowledge Him, to sing praises to Him, to pray, and to come together with other believers, and to celebrate Jesus, and to not mix that up with other things. So, like, I'm not going to be on my phone during the worship service. I'm not going to be doing
Right.
it's focused time of us focusing on Him.
And even if it's only like a few hours or whatever before church, like along with that comes discipline. And
Hmm.
I think with a lot of things in life, there is discipline. And I think discipline is very strong, and it's a key for like
Freedom.
yeah, like because if you're not disciplined, you're just going to be all over the place, and you have to have some sort of discipline. Even like the word like confinement is a sense of being disciplined, such as us being confined in what we speak of. There's a discipline to that, because if not, then we're going to be all over the place. I would have probably already started talking about rabbits or something in
Yeah,
some way,
well,
shape, or form.
I mean, it's even like you said about that guy that you said does, like, what would you call it, the
Darkness retreat.
yeah, the darkness retreat. Like, that's a confinement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like it gives you no other choices. Even when you said like after day 4 or whatever, he was like over it. But yeah, he finished it out of discipline because it's a
Mm-hmm.
confinement. You're literally cutting off all other options.
And that's so crazy. Like I said, I don't think I could do it. Maybe a
Well,
day.
well, you confined yourself to some degree. That's how this podcast got started.
Yeah,
Remember?
many moons ago.
Because we could talk about a million different subjects
Mm-hmm.
and we had to confine ourselves to one subject and learn how to be creative around one theme until
And be
we
disciplined
and be
in
disciplined
order
with
to
it
do it.
in order to do it. And then we can grow from there.
So also, just like in rest in general, there's also rest in other things. So as in music, pauses are extremely important in our lives. In any musical composition, rests allow us to appreciate the notes which have come before and give emphasis to the melodies that follow. So
I
one
like
thing
that.
that so one thing that um so I don't know like how big of an idea this is, but rests, stops, pauses, whatever you want to call it in music, I find that taking a rest, like in a song that you're playing, like when it comes back in, it makes it sound like so much like smoother and cleaner. Because we have in the band that I'm in, we have
You guys have a name?
yes, it's called Kill Mike Love, and we're not really trying to kill anybody. It's just
Oh, it's a Kill Mike Love.
yes,
Oh, they said Kill My Glove.
no, not your glove, love.
Thought it was like,
So no. So on one of the couple of songs that we have, like we do have stops in it. But the thing that I love about it is once we come back in, we all come back in together, and there is definitely a melody that follows it, and it just makes it so much more of like a I don't know, like a type of feeling. And there's been other bands that we've had like stops in our songs, but it just shows like once we all come back in, like a sense of like I don't know, accomplishment, because sometimes with doing stops or pauses or whatever in music, if the beat is wrong, then everything's going to be off and it's going to sound like kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
It's
it's
like a reset.
type of thing. Um, but the thing that I do like about how it said appreciate the notes which have come before and give the emphasis to the melodies that follow. The part that I like about that is so the title of this podcast for today would be how resting allows us to appreciate the notes of life. So how like I figured it is like for me, life comes with a lot of things. So in order for me to get a lot of these things together, I think a calendar. And you're the one that helped me with my whole calendar ness like a few years ago. But
Yeah, you hated that.
yeah. So then the other thing that I think about are notes, notes of music, music sheets. So I feel like either A, if there's too many notes within the music sheet, things are just going to be keep being played and played and played and played and played and played. Same thing with a calendar. If you keep putting a bunch of stuff in there, like one right after another, after another, after another, everything's going to kind of jumble together. So then there is no appreciation of the thing before. So like in music, there is no appreciation of we'll just go the group of notes that create the melody. So if you just have this long melody, like you're not going to be able to appreciate the note that came before. And a lot of times like there can be like certain simple like melodies or notes that you play together that it makes like the world, and it's something like super simple. So if you have all kinds of notes on a music sheet, or if you have all kinds of tasks on a calendar that you have to do, you're not going to be able to, I guess, enjoy the thing that came before. And then at the same thing, or at the same time, like if you think too much into it, then you're just going to try to hurry up and get the job done because you're running back or you're running out of time. And so the whole thing of this one right here as a music positive, it's extremely important in our lives. In many musical compositions, rests allow us to appreciate the notes. I
Yeah,
definitely like that.
it reminds me of I don't know if I got it from my old boss, but I used to, going back to the calendar, squeeze as many meetings in back to back to back. And I don't know where I got the idea from, but to give yourself some time in between so you can reset, and so you can give that person, so you could basically decompress a little bit from the meeting you just had, kind of like, you know, the snow globe, like you shake it and then you just
Mhm.
let it, let all the little things
Go
settle.
down.
Yep. And like let that way you can start from a fresh baseline.
And I think that's definitely good because if you go from one meeting to another, like your thoughts can be on the past meeting and you're not going to be able to live in the now rather than you're going to be living like in your meeting that you just had and you're not going to be able to give it your all. And it could be
Mm-hmm.
like a really important meeting
Yep.
or a really important meeting. Most of the time, meetings are kind of bleh. But if it's an important meeting, then you might miss it. That's not good. So the same goes for life. If we rush blindly through the week with no time to stop, we'll have no time to value what we have or recharge ourselves for what lies ahead. So kind of so this is more of a broader thing of what you just said, because what you just said is more, um, in a sense, like one right after another. This one seems like it's more of a broader like
Mm-hmm.
um, days, weeks, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing is if we rush blindly through the week with no time to stop, we'll have no time to value what we have. And I think valuing, and a lot of times it comes back down to like when I see that or when I read that, um, it comes back down to relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that's relationships
That
just
part.
in general. Like we won't have time for relationships. And since we are relational beings, then almost probably in some strange way, I can think in my head, like, so then what am I doing? Like then there might be hopelessness or something that accompanies that because I'm like, well, if I can't value these relationships that I have right in front of me because I'm not stopping, then what am I? But that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of the ways we can begin practicing Sabbath rest? one thing that you said earlier, self-care practices such as reading, exercise, hiking, or spending time in nature can be incorporated into a weekly routine as a form of Sabbath-like rest and rejuvenation. And it's almost like what I was talking about, I believe last week, um, kind of going for those walks and just
Mhm.
kind of going with pretty much no end in sight. I'm just going to walk, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a form of rejuvenation. Um, it just helps me just to walk, and I'm not necessarily thinking like where I'm going or necessarily about like anything else, because a lot of times I'll put in like my AirPod, um, and I'll just kind of go, and it's rejuvenating. I feel like I don't have to think.
Mhm.
Obviously, we know that I'm an overthinker, um, but it's just nice to like not have to think. And then I'm getting exercise too, I guess. So that's always a good thing, I guess.
Mhm.
So digital detox or taking periodic breaks from technology is another way to recharge and disconnect from our increasingly digital world.
Mhm.
Good old technology.
Yep.
So let me ask you something really quick. Surface. Remember, like back in school when they would make us do like a pros and cons type of paper or something like that, and you always had to choose one or the other, like a pro or
Mhm.
a con, even though like you agreed with both.
Mhm.
So when it comes to like social media, digital technology, would you be more so on the pros or the cons?
I think definitely there's pros.
The pros?
I would say it's a pro to take a break.
No, not to take a break, but the I guess the what is that word?
Like the
The
impact of it on us.
the making of social media, the making of being able to one click on shopping or the internet as a whole, whatever the case may be.
Oh, like do I think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, just depends on the user, I guess.
So we're going back to, we'll say, high school. You got to choose one.
Yeah, I would say yeah.
It's good
It's a good.
because I'm totally opposite. I thought bad, and I guess in the whole reasoning behind that is because relationships, because I think it's kind of cut down like on relationships. Not blaming like social media for anything. I'm just saying like as in taken away from having those relationships. I think it does take away from, and maybe more so like social media rather than the internet as a whole. But I think it has taken away like that one-on-one like conversation with people.
Okay, now let me ask you a quick question. Surface, small town or big city?
Small town.
Okay, I just wanted to see if it matched with your way of thinking, and I figured you would say that.
Oh, so you know me now like that. Okay.
Dang.
All right.
All
So
right, McFly.
vacation vacation or taking time off of work, that'd be nice. Or school, sabbaticals, nice. To travel or relax can also be seen as a way of Sabbath. Well, since you did put sabbatical in there, then I would see that it's a way of Sabbath. Good old sabbatical. I wonder if that's
Mm,
where they got the word sabbaticals
I
from
think so.
Sabbath. That's the first time I've ever thought of that. Hmm, nice. So while these practices may not be the same religious significance as Sabbath in certain faith communities, they are still important ways to prioritize rest and rejuvenation in our busy lives. So pretty much what it's saying is calm down, take some time to yourself, and rest and rejuvenate from our busy lives, which
Hmm.
I can make a busy life out of like not really even being busy, which is kind of weird. But keep in mind that it takes time to truly decompress and enter into a state of rest.
Yes, it
So,
does.
so how long do you think that takes? If the
I,
if somebody wanted to know time, so how long does that take?
I think it depends on how hard you've been running, what kind of season you're coming out of. Because I just I went through a season where I was involved in a lot of intense ministry, and it was full-time
Chaotic.
job, very chaotic, and it was like every day, 24/7, then and pastoring, and it was a lot. So when I stepped down and took a break, because everything wasn't healthy in my life, um, and things got it was just a whirlwind of a lifestyle, and I wasn't completely balanced. It took me a few years to start detoxing a lot of that stuff, and to truly, it took me one solid year to truly let the the little,
The snow come down.
yeah, to
The
let the
snow globe.
snow come down and the snow globe to hit the ground for me to be with Carlos again.
So that makes sense. Like the more intense and the more that you put into something,
Hmm.
almost dictates the decompression time
Yeah.
into your state of rest.
Hmm. If it's
That's what
truly going to be rest.
makes sense. So it's important to recognize that rest is not just the absence of work or activity, but a state of mind and body that requires time and intentional effort to achieve. And I think everything always comes down to intention.
Hmm.
Like, what is your reason
Got to do it on purpose.
with purpose, on purpose? Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I just thought of that right now.
I see
So
that.
in our fast-paced society, we often feel pressure to be productive and constantly on the go, which can make it difficult to truly unwind and relax. So so how big do you think the fast-paced society puts pressure on you?
Like in
I,
what? Like,
I guess it would be dependent on maybe your job, like what do they want?
hmm,
Um,
the
but I think
stressors you carry day and the demands that are placed on your time, your energy, your mind, your body, your
so,
money,
yeah.
your gas, everything.
So I think this is a good one right here. So it's okay to give ourselves permission. And I think the big word is to give ourselves permission to take the time we need to decompress and enter into a state of rest, even if it means saying no to other obligations or responsibilities for a period of time.
What? A boundary?
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
So,
it means saying no. And you don't even always have to give an
um,
explanation. But some people may have a hard time with that.
but I think I still believe like the big thing is like giving ourselves permission, and giving ourselves permission is like in a lot of things. A lot of things we need to give ourselves permission. Like give ourselves permit like last week, give ourselves permission to just in a sense like be stuck with our thoughts. No matter how good, no matter how bad, be stuck with them.
Hmm.
Because I think that's when we truly will be able to have intentional decompression time to enter into that state of rest.
The dark cave.
That's what I'm talking about. Now you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about now.
So, building in regular time for rest and relaxation can have numerous benefits for our mental, physical, and emotional well being. It actually helps us to be more productive and effective in the long run. So, it's macro versus micro. The macro would be in the long run. And I think a
You
lot of
forgot
things
mezzo.
in between.
Hmm.
I, I, I think I remember you saying that before, but right now I just kind of spit it out right now. And I was right.
You were
Good for
right.
me.
You
Thank you.
usually are.
Only when I have a book in front of me or Google. So it's also important to recognize that rest is not a one size fits all solution. It's important to experiment with different practices and find what works for you.
Indubitably.
And you're indubitably.
I just
By,
want you to try to say it.
thanks. By giving ourselves permission to take the time we need, we can cultivate a deeper sense of well being and balance in our lives. There's that word again, permission. So give yourself permission. And like I said earlier, permission for whatever the case may be.
So what does that look like for you, Winslow, to give yourself permission? Why does it have to be framed that way?
To
Giving
give
yourself
myself
permission.
permission,
Hmm.
because then it makes it, I think when I think permission, I think okay. Like almost like a, you need to get a permission slip from your parents in order for you to go to this field trip. Permission, it's like saying like I'm giving them the okay for them to go on this field trip. So it's giving me the okay where I don't have to fight with do I do it? Do I not do it? It's giving myself permission. It's giving me the right. It's giving me the okay in order to do whatever I need to do.
All right.
Like that, huh?
I like that. It came with it.
That's right. So it's important to approach rest with a sense of self-compassion and patience. It may take time to truly enter into a state of rest, and that's okay. Kind of going back down to what you're saying, depending on how strenuous and how stressful and all these other variables that come into place will be dependent on how long it might take to truly enter into a state of rest.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, that's okay. That is okay. So listen to the words of Jesus. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest.
I love those words.
I'm like, here you go.
Yep.
I am definitely burdened.
Yep. And that's what he says too. He says, cast all your cares, all your anxieties on me. Why? Because I care for you. That's what the scripture says.
And it's something. It's such a in a sense, it's such a simple like scripture, such a simple action to do, but it's such a hard action to do.
You know what?
We like to control.
Yeah, or we like to offload it and then we pick it back up before we leave.
Like, nah, just kidding.
Like, just I get that back.
I've had
just in case.
I've had many discussions about things like that, and it's always like we give it and then we take it.
Yeah.
But hopefully, eventually, I'll just be able to give and be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, Jesus offers us a new kind of rest that goes beyond just physical rest. It is a rest for our souls, a rest that brings peace and wholeness to our entire being. I would love to have the peace and wholeness. What about you?
I think it's something that I do work to have. And it's interesting that I choose the word work to have. And that goes in exactly. It goes in the form of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, making sure I make that time, going back to our last episode of making sure I have time for silence and solitude, some points of time during every day. And now this week, we're talking about a day of rest and worship. So you see, you work rest into the daily and then to the weekly. Give you rhythms of life.
Like music, rhythms?
Yep, with pauses in between.
That's right. So next week, we will be discussing key ID number 8. By consuming less and sharing more, we'll have more time for the things that really matter.
Yes.
So really quick, what are some things that really matter?
My faith, my family, and my future. 3 F's. What?
Wow. Mine would be faith, family, and being creative.
Yeah.
Because being creative for me is like a huge thing. It's like my outlet.
Mm. And reading. I love reading.
You do love to read. And that's good.
I do.
Make the knowledge.
It's refreshing to me. It's not even about knowledge. I think it's very therapeutic for me. I have like all kinds of friends. They don't know me, but I know them. Mm-hmm. They're my little friends.
John Mark Homer. So with that being said, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Creative Whole podcast. So make sure to like and subscribe if you like what you hear. So if you are, I don't know, maybe going on a jog or something, you could listen to us on pretty much major platforms of podcasting, which I think now it's called Spotify for podcasters. So that takes care of Spotify. You could listen to us on YouTube.
No longer Anchor, right?
Nope. YouTube. You could go on Castbox. You can go on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and pretty much all the major platforms. So I am glad And I love you guys for listening. And I'm sure Carlos loves you guys for listening.
I love
And
you
thank you.
anyways, even if you don't listen.
Here we go.
Just saying.
And we appreciate you sticking around, listening to us, going along on this journey for us, or with us, I should say. And like we've said before, if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, hit us up on Instagram, and we kind of go from there. So with that being said, peace
Peace.
out. We love y'all.
Love you
Have a
guys.
good one.
Have a great
Stay
week.
blessed. Stay blessed. Peace.